The following video will be brought to you entirely through song. Enjoy. Hello there. No, I'm just kidding. What is going on, everybody? We are going to be talking about Star Wars Armada today because we finally got our big final update from Atomic Mass Games. And this one is a doozy. It is massively huge. And we're going to just dive into it. We're going to try and cover a little bit of everything and a whole lot of stuff. There's points changes galore, a few things errated, some rules changes, a tournament structure change, and a lot of questions. I also question whether or not this is truly final because of a couple of things that are still mistakes and things that still seem like they need to be tweaked just a little bit, but this may still be the final update that we get. So it's worth talking about. This is, in summary, there's a lot here to keep things fresh and new and completely flip the meta upside down. And but it's also, it doesn't seem like it's too drastic of a change in any one particular directions. Most cards seem like they've gotten slight tweaks. If you were a very strong card, you probably got a little more expensive. If you were a underperforming card, you might have gotten a little bit cheaper. And some things that were grievously offensive have seen slightly more significant changes. We're going to talk about all of that, and you can find all of this stuff over at Atomic Mass Games, but I'll link all of it in the video description below. Also, we are starting a new round of the giveaway right now for a $25 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. If you're already subscribed, I want to hear your thoughts. And what are you most excited about? What are you planning on doing? What do you think this is going to do for the World Championships that are happening at Adepticon? I will be there, by the way. I was planning on running Akbar Nebulons, but maybe now I'm going to have to try something different. I don't know yet. Everything's crazy and I can't make up my mind. I need you guys to help me. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. Let's start talking about some of the errata. So there is an errata document. This is the one that you want to look at. This one is very interesting to me. They're calling it errata like 5.5 or something like that. The biggest gripe I have with this is that it's all of the old errata mixed in with all of the new errata. There's no change log. There's no, oh, this one was changed. This one's exactly the same as it used to be. You know, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to touch on some interesting ones, like Screed went down a little bit. Like, that's nice. Trench went down like 4 points. He might be usable now. I don't see myself using him. Admonition. Couple of changes with admonition. And I want to point out something, because there's not just an errata document, there's also a new rules document. The rules document has errata at the end that's old and wasn't really touched, and it dealt with, admonition's been changed multiple times over the years. It's closer to its original state right now, and but if you look at the rules document, it's going to point to an admonition that was like an old version and referencing something that it lost, because it was changed to need an active defense token, and now it's back to just a defense token. You can just spend any defense token now. But its cost went up as a result of that. So it gained more use, but also gained more expensiveness. Expensiveness? That's not a real word that I should be using. It gained more cost. So its price went up, but its utility went up, because now you don't have to use a readied defense token for it. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot more. Anakin Skywalker went down. Asajj Ventress went down a little bit. I still don't think I'm going to use her. Auxiliary Shields, I don't know if that one changed very much. I think Bomber Command went up like a 1 point. Some of these are just 1 point changes. I want to talk about Clone Commander Wolf. He was one of those cards that couldn't do, or not, I won't say couldn't do anything, but didn't really do anything. Big difference if you look at this compared to the printed version you have. It doesn't require the printed assault keyword on it anymore. So it looks like basically he can give people without adept, he can give them assault, and then they can also trigger their assault keyword. So that sounds like it might be worth trying at this point, but I don't know how good it's going to be. Corruptor, you're going to see with victory titles went down. Corruptor is one of those ones that went down, but that's not the most interesting one. Not the most interesting one. Darth Vader went down. Dooku went down. Almost all under, like, every popular commander was changed a little bit, whether they were popular for being bad. A lot of them went, got a little cheaper. Some of them were popular for being good. A lot of those got more expensive. Vader Commander went down just a little bit. It does seem like if you were underperforming, you went down by 2 points. Vader went down by 2 points, for example. If you were overperforming, you might have gone up by 2 points. It's not universally the case, but it happened. Vader Officer, for example, went up to 4 points from a single. What was he? 1 point. Like, so he needed to go up. 4 points is still incredibly worthwhile to take Darth Vader. Especially a lot of other officers got points changes too. Some went down, some went up. Dodonna's Pride went down a little bit. One of the reasons for that you'll see because Jaina's Light also went up significantly. So, and rightfully so. Jaina's Light's a crazy powerful title. Dominator, this one makes me very, very happy. Victory Star Destroyers also got cheaper in price, and that's an interesting thing. But Dominator was a 12-point title. That one went down by 5. So not only can you do a more affordable Vic 2, you can also do a more affordable title on it. It's just a beautiful thing. And some things like dual turbo laser, I think they went down like just 1 point. Another big deal here is expanded launchers. Expanded launchers are 8 points. They're worth like 13. So again, 5-point swing for a couple of cards. This is now cheaper than Spinal Armament. This is and you're getting 2 dice in your front arc. This is a big deal. This was one of those cards I loved to try and run, but could never really justify at 13 points. But at 8, I think I can swing it. I think I'm going to really like that. And that's not the only thing. No, sir. No, ma'am. Not the only thing. A lot of little points changes here. Again, some of this stuff was stuff that was already here. All of the original errata, when they made changes to cards or when cards got points changes before they went into the card upgrade pack, all of those are also still here. So you're going to see a lot of old things like, I think, Gallant Haven, for example. Foresight is also 10 points now. So both of the MC30 titles are back to being the same cost. Little changes. Draven has already been changed a couple of times, right? Different from but he's still got the same text he had yesterday, but he's down to 20 points now. So while he's not great, he's at least only 20 points, so maybe he's worth trying again. Maybe he's somebody worth taking another look at. I'm not sure. General Madine changed quite significantly. Points cost is the same, but he is now reworked in a way that still resembles the spirit of Madine, but is easier to use, but offers a lower ceiling, I suppose, in that he used to give you the option that if you had resolved a nav dial, you could get an extra yaw, and if you had a nav token, you could get a yaw or a speed. So you could take that instead of, you could basically turn a token into a yaw as well. Now, he just gives you a yaw, but it's got to be for your first move during your activation. And that's great because he just gives you something extra. Now, if you do a nav token, if you do a nav dial, you're going to have a yaw, and you can also use Madine's yaw. But it means Madine's a little more flexible, can be used in more ships that maybe they don't need to nav all the time. But where he works really well, I've seen him work really well with token generating liberties, for example, that could have a nav dial and a token, and be able to use Madine to get like 3 extra yaw. And things like that. There was tech that could just, there was different combinations of things that you could get your normal yaw for your nav dial, an extra yaw for Madine, and then also an extra yaw for having a token as well. So, he had, a way that he could give you tremendous amounts of yaw. That functionality is largely gone now. You can still potentially do it because you can put that there's officers that you can put on there, but then you lose, it's more of an opportunity cost for that. Not a big deal. I think overall this is probably a buff for Madine in the majority of fleets that might use him, but there's, at least in fleets that I've played against, there was some tech that made Madine even better. So he is this, overall I think it's still a good thing for him. Ramadi is at 28. I'm not sure if that's a new change. He's been going up and up and up. He's been an incredibly popular Imperial commander. 28 seems maybe still too low for him. I'm not sure. It's fine though. Price, big change with Governor Price. In addition to, I think, a 1-point change, her significant change here is that now you cannot choose an accuracy. And that's a massive change to her. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why she's at 6 now. You can still get a die of your choice. and it still costs a shield, and it's still only once per activation, and it's still only when attacking a ship. But it can get you that red double or a black double, and that's kind of cool. You gotta have a shield, so if you're doing a black double, you better kill them. So yeah, much less useful because you cannot generate that accuracy. Can't guarantee that you're going to take away the lone brace. Can't guarantee you're going to kill the flotilla by stopping the scatter and all of that. But I think a lot of people are happy. Empire has been strong enough and still works on an Onager, for example. We've seen a couple of other things here. One thing about Thrawn, well, Thrawn, I don't think he saw a whole lot of change here. There was a rules update that talks about dials gained can't be used for raid tokens. I think these are things. There was some things I think that were just from rulings that made it way into the actual rulebook now, which is a good thing. Some titles, some cost decreases. Gosh, heavy fire zone, man. Like that's only 2 points now. That's wild. Invisible hand, slight change. To the bubble, I think it's not just a distance 3 bubble anymore. You can now, I think this is more like working as originally intended. You get the 1 to 3, so you can now have the full bubble, the full circle, instead of just that donut ring for invisible hand, which is a good thing. And I think that was always the intent, but because of an obscure ruling at 1 point and an inconsistent wording amongst range bubbles, it left some things where it's anywhere within the circle, and other ones like, no, it has to be range 3 in that range 3 band, which is a donut. It was a really weird thing, and it was one of those things that it's like, well, our hands are tied because it says this. Well, now they finally have corrected that. Home 1 got a points decrease, but still does not affect itself, and that's again, it's not a nerf, it's a buff. Home 1's cheaper than it was before, which is good. Jaina's Light is up to 5 points now. Leading shots up a little bit. Linked turbo laser towers. Interesting change here. You may have heard people saying it's bombard only. It's not bombard only. You can still put it on any ship that can take a turbo laser slot, and it's still not a modification, so still a good turbo laser option. However, your ability to re-roll a red die in your attack pool when attacking a ship only works if you have the bombard tag, which is an interesting thing. Now, there are mostly Clone Wars ships that have the bombard tag. The Imperials do have the Venator, which has the bombard tag as well. So Rebels won't have access to be able to do that in particular. But you can still use it for squadrons. You can still use it while attacking a squadron. You can still re-roll a red die in your attack pool. During your activation, while attacking the first squadron, you can still exhaust this card to add 2 dice of any color to your attack pool. If you do, you cannot declare additional. So basically, it still works the same for squadrons, regardless. Which is, and that's already a selective and decent squadron upgrade. It just doesn't give you the ship-to-ship bonus, which is maybe the stronger option of it. It depends on your playstyle and what you play against. But it was an incredibly versatile card that was picked so often. It was one of the auto-include cards. So rather than just get a points increase, it got more of a restriction to Clone Wars, which is kind of a buff to Clone Wars factions with respect to the Empire and Rebellion. Some points changes over here. Let's see, what else do we have that I thought was particularly interesting. Obi-Wan is down a little bit more too, and K7's down a little bit more. PDICs, I expected them to go up more than just two additional points. I don't think that an increase from 4 to 6 on the point defense ion cannons is enough to really kind of shake them out of the meta. I would have wanted it to be, probably closer to 8 or 9 points, but it is what it is. It's still an increase. It's still a push closer towards the better option. So that's cool. And it's, and again, it's, if the game were being continually updated and this wasn't going to be like a final update, I could be like, okay, that's smart. Just give it a small incremental increase, and then we'll see where it is. And then after a year, we'll reevaluate and stuff like that. I just don't know if there will be another year to reevaluate. But who knows? There's always an interesting chance. Redemption got a decrease. I love the Redemption title. Got a decrease down to 5. Love it. Rapid Reload down to only 4 points. Again, similar to that expanded munitions. You know, like those black dice modifications. That's really cool. I like that. Reserve hangar decks and repair crews coming down. Sand Hill. I want to talk about this page a little bit. There's quite a few things on this page. Sand Hill. Completely reworked. He used to, if you don't remember what Sand Hill did, you're probably not alone because I don't think anybody ever used him. He could potentially give you the chance to activate extra squadrons during the squadron phase when it was your turn to activate squadrons, which meant he was only useful in a squadron game where activations mattered, but you weren't using squadron commands to activate squadrons, and neither was your opponent, and you guys both had squadrons. And that kind of just wasn't a reality that ever really happened. At least in the case where you had so many squadrons that you needed to, activate like 4 instead of 2. It was just not a really much of a thing. And it'd be a bigger deal if you had like more like rogues and bounty hunters for the separatists and things like that. But now he gives a chance where you can activate extra squadrons during somebody else's squadron token activation. So basically he's gonna now push somebody else. So if you have your carrier that does, hey, I'm doing a squadron command, I'm gonna activate 4 squadrons, Sand Hill can let you activate up to 2 more. And for 3 points, he can give you like one really big squadron push outside of the normal expected amount of squadrons. So he can give you an advantage in the squadron game, and that's kind of cool. And for a cheap officer, that's interesting. Now, I'll point out that we didn't get like a Rapid Reinforcements 3 with this. We didn't get new cards. So having him be reworked is almost like a new card. And one of the things I think Separatists were always missing is a squadron commander, a commander that was going to help out your squadron game. And he's an officer that at least does it a little bit. So it's kind of cool to see that a strategy for Separatists that wasn't as dominant before. He might offer a new meta possibility. A new rise in more competitive squadron Separatist type builds. He's at least worth considering. That's like initial hot takes. We'll have to see, because again, it's not going to be something he can do every turn, so it may be too little to make a big impact, but it might be just right. Slicer Tools has changed. A couple of things to talk about with this card. I have been told by sources that I trust that there's a misprint on this card. It should not have the auto recycle because it costs you an engineering token to ready this card, so it should have like the old single arrow like it used to have instead of the self-fulfilling arrow that it has. But the other change is Slicer Tools does not start the game exhausted anymore, which I thought was also kind of interesting. There were only a handful of use cases where it could really be oppressive on turn 1, but such cases did exist, but I don't think it was a huge deal. But so Slicer Tools is back to being readied at the start of the game. Squall went up significantly, up to 7 points. That title also went up quite a bit. Talk about a couple of other things that are in here. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? A few other points adjustments. Not too much that's like super crazy. Squadron changes. Some people are going to point out Boba and Colonel Jendon. Colonel Jendon, by the way, appears in here twice. I want to point out also, if you look at Colonel Jendon quickly, you might not realize that that's actually Patrick Stewart in the Colonel Jendon card. I bet you didn't realize that. Too late. You didn't notice by now. You missed it. You didn't miss it because you'll see him again. Let's see. Some more Squadron Errata. There's Colonel Jendon again. Yes, he appears twice in here. I guess that was just an accident. One thing to point out, there is a general rule that when a keyword exists, like rogue, you reference that keyword by using the official approved rule. Like, I wouldn't, if I forgot what Rogue did, the answer is to look it up in the rulebook. Now, a lot of cards will have helper text. Prime example is the fact that you have the Lancer class pursuit craft right next to Lando. And that one has reminder text for Rogue to give you an idea of how it works. But that's not the rule. It's just there to help you, to remind you what it does. But sometimes, since rules can change, reminder text doesn't always change, especially on older cards. So that's why they just say, look to the rulebook to see what Rogue does. Now, Rogue hasn't seen a change. But if you look up Relay under Lambda, and then you look at Relay on Colonel Jendon, who, by the way, he got a points increase too, which is good. He was crazy strong. Relay, it has different reminder texts on these. So the Lambda has the more up-to-date reminder text. Basically, you have the Relay if you were able to be activated by the ship that did it. Whereas Colonel Jendon has like the legacy old style Relay that was from like the early version when he first came out, that said you could be anywhere on the board and still get activated. Now, regardless of what that reminder text says, I mean, that was a mistake, and they shouldn't have made that mistake, because they used some old, an old copy paste, I think. But it doesn't matter because you never use the reminder text as the basis for your rules. That's so regardless of what it says, you're still following the rules for Relay, which do take precedence and require you be in activatable range. So I want to point that out. Malihura went down significantly as well. And we got some ships also. I think Acclimators, I think they went down a little bit. Clone Wars got a lot of buffs. Architans, freaking crazy. Architans went down a couple of points each. You can run like 7. I think somebody did the math and said you can run 7 Architans right now. Of all the times I've regretted not having 7 Architans, this is one of them. Although I don't regret it too much, because imagine running 7 Architans right now. I'd probably make some people very, very angry with me. Assault frigates went down. I believe the Charger C-70, I think that went down. I think everything went down just 1 or 2 points. The Gazanti is the hard cell battle refit also. MC-75 going down. MC-80s went down. Onager is unchanged, but this was the older Errata, so it was changed at one point. Providence went down also. Crazy. Victories. Oh, Victory went down a little bit. The Victory 2, this is the one that I'm probably most happy about. I like the Victory Star Destroyer, and I've always liked it because it felt like an underdog. It might have needed to go down more than just 5 points, but at 80 points, I mean, I want to try and combine that with the fact that the titles also went down. I think it's a little more competitive now. I don't know if it's like top tier, but I think it's more viable, and I always thought the victories were fun regardless. I just hope this isn't such a points change that victories now become like, I don't want to see like a 2 or 3 victory fleet win worlds. Like, I don't want to see it to be that much of a swing. Unless it's like a fluke because everybody was trying some kind of jank for worlds. But I mean, there's like 150, every time they add more seats to Armada, they sell out instantly at Worlds. So it's like Armada's like AMG's most popular game right now, which is really strange that they just decided to end it. And these are old updates for the objectives. So that much is pretty cool. That's the bulk of what we need to talk about. But there's a few other interesting things in the rules reference. They're saying this is rules 1.6. And a couple of at least they highlighted these in blue. A couple of just things just to clear things up. There's a few things specifically that I want to talk about. Let's see. So salvo. I don't think they changed much with salvo. Yeah, I don't think they. I'll come back to that. I was hoping to see, you can now salvo against an ignition attack or something like that. And this is also my first pass over a lot of this stuff. So there's going to be more time to digest all of these things and realize things that maybe I missed the first time. If I missed something, definitely let me know, something that you thought was interesting. I do like this. there's a modifying dice step in the rules, and they have clarified this to replace set and remove, replace exchange set and remove also count as modifications, which is one of those reasons why, for example, if Lando sets a die to a double red when he's attacking your Gozanti, and you try to scatter, the double red remains because that removal is a modification. So when something says you can't modify a die, I thought that was interesting. All right, so we've got a couple more. There's a couple of interesting things. I think you can overlap multiple proximity mine tokens at once now. Raid tokens, we talked about this before. With Thrawn, a ship cannot discard a dial it gained from an effect to discard its raid tokens. You can still. You're still working with Thrawn. You just have to plan around it, like make the Thrawn dials be the ones you want to keep, and then discard your regular dial. So you can still get rid of them. It's just you have a little less flexibility, I think, with Thrawn now. Some clarification about stuff that is not in play. There was one other errata I wanted to talk about, and it was the rapid launch bays, as it applies to ships that weren't in play. Let me see if I can find them again really quick, because I thought that was an interesting errata, and I think I just glazed right over it. So rapid launch bays is going to be on the R's. Now at least these are alphabetical. Okay, so rapid launch bays was changed a little bit. Before deploying fleets, you can set aside a number of friendly squadrons equal to your squadron value next to your ship card. Okay. When you reveal a command, you may discard this card. If you do, place each squadron set aside with this card within distance 1 of 2 of you. Those squadrons cannot move during your activation. You know why this is such a big deal? A number of reasons. For one, this doesn't require a squadron command anymore. So you now have the option to have rapid launch bays, and you're protected from slicer tools, right? And I think that may be one of those reasons why slicer tools might have been it said, okay, well, he doesn't have to start exhausted anymore or what have you. Also, you have to discard the card in order to do this. So you don't have the option of being able to drop one squadron this turn and save the other one for the next turn or something like that, which I don't think that was as common. But you get to do that for free regardless. Maybe you're doing a nav command because they can't activate anyway, so you're already going to have somebody else activate them regardless. So it doesn't have to be on a dedicated carrier at this point. So I thought that's an interesting thing. It's harder to block that way. So if you're going to slicer tool somebody with rapid launch bays, you might as well slicer the other ship. That would be at risk of doing that to them. So I thought that was kind of cool. Let's see, what else do we have? There's a section about tags. This is really here because of the way that the LTT Link Turbo Laser Towers gives you a special bonus if you have Bombard. We've seen certain things like clone only or droid only already on other upgrade cards. But there's a weird fourth bullet point on this one that says some upgrade cards may add tags to a ship. There are no upgrade cards that add tags to a ship. So unless they have a Rapid Reinforcements 3, I don't understand why they're saying that some upgrade cards may add tags to a ship. It's a very interesting and misleading statement. I don't like the fact that they put that in there, because that's going to fuel my next 2 or 3 years of speculation for Rapid Reinforcements 3. Well, AMG said some upgrades may add cards to a ship. Why future-proof your rulebook if it's your final rulebook? Or is it your final rulebook? Honestly, what are they thinking, right? I have asked in some Discords, and some folks are like, well, they did that to help out homebrew, so you can homebrew stuff easier. And I think that's complete and total nonsense for 2 reasons. For one, AMG does not ever endorse homebrew. They're not allowed to endorse homebrew. So there's that. And second off, even if it were, what homebrew would require that line when you already have, like the beginning of the rule book, the golden rule, right? Upgrades can break the rules, of course. Who in here needs a special rule to say, hey, an upgrade card can grant you an ability that is counter to the rules as written? every upgrade card does that. Like, you don't need like that. So I don't buy that, like, oh, they did that for homebrew. The AMG doesn't care about us that much. I don't think, and they don't care about homebrew people and giving them special rules, because there already is a special rule for all of that. So, and then we got the old, all the old errata that's in here too. So, well, they cleaned up some things. There's definitely some things in here that were a little questionable. Specifically, that last that fourth bullet point under tags, which I just thought was weird. Lastly, we also have a tournament regulations change, and the weird thing about this is, I'm going to scroll down to it, that they are talking about the tournament structure is, according to this document, a seeded single elimination bracket. Now, I have heard that the Worlds judge, Dennis, has said that they're not using this for Worlds. However, I'm hearing that through word of mouth, and I certainly hope so. It wouldn't make sense to do a single elimination bracket at Worlds. That would not make sense at all. What does seem likely is that they will use normal Swiss at first and maybe switch to single elimination for like the final cut, which I could see that happening. That makes a little more sense to me. But this, all of the single elimination talk in here, Armada doesn't play well at single elimination. Wins and losses aren't really what matters. It's tournament points. That's what really matters. That's what's supposed to matter, right? So, that's why they have all of these points. That's why they have all of this. Because if you win 6-5, yes, that counts as a win, but it's really a tie. It's really kind of almost like a loss for both players, because you really want those 8, 9, and 10-point wins to kind of put yourself in high standing for, to make the next day, to make the next round, to make the next cut, to make the top table, etc. You want those type of wins. So a win isn't just a win in Star Wars Armada. And imagine if they were doing single elimination and you went all the way out to Worlds, you lost your first game, and so you're kicked out of the whole tournament because you went up against like a Starhawk or something like that on your first game, and they stalled you for a 6-5 win. So that's because anybody who goes second and second player has a relatively easy chance of forcing a 6-5 if they want to just fly away from you. It's so that's another reason why single elimination does not work very well in Star Wars Armada. So I'm surprised that they added that there. I don't get it. I don't think a lot of TOs will end up actually following that particular structure. Because nobody wants to come out to a tournament and then just be told after their first game that you're kicked out of the entire tournament. That's not fun for anybody. It only works for like a final 4 or maybe a final 8 if it's a big enough tournament or something like that. I can see that for the final day. But I don't think that they're going to be doing that for the whole tournament. So if you are worried about Adepticon, it doesn't seem like they're going to be doing that at Worlds, at least not for everybody. At least not for day one. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think if you go out there, you're going to get to play multiple games. So that's what I understand right now. So that's just a quick look at all of the new Armada stuff for our big update. This was pretty big. It was a pretty big update. I'm surprised. My thoughts are they didn't. There's a few questionable things in there. There's a few things I would have wanted them to have done more with, but I think overall they didn't flip the game into a bad state. I think just about every change was in the right direction. Whether or not it went too far or didn't go far enough, we can discuss. But everything seems pretty good at first glance. Everything seems interesting at first glance, and there's some kind of exciting things too. I'm a little disappointed we didn't also get a Rapid Reinforcements 3 with like another Separatist commander, with Republic Architans, things like that. While they did say this would be the final update, that does kind of still make me wonder, is like, do they mean final update like final rules and points update? But there might still be a Rapid Reinforcements 3. I think that's a pretty far stretch at this point. I'm hoping that AMG will kind of clarify why they had that fourth bullet point in there under tags. It might have just been, and like maybe there was an upgrade card planned that would have added a keyword to a card, and maybe it got scrapped, and maybe that's how it was in there. I think that's a reasonable guess, but things like that are the things that encourage me to look really, really deep and try to read between the lines. So if you see some conspiracy theories from me about that in the near future, that's totally going to be why, and I'm using that as my justification because they put that in there, and I'm gonna just go all for it. So, all right. Hopefully you found this video helpful and interesting and maybe a little entertaining. Sorry for starting the video off with the threat of doing the entire thing in song. I think I would have lost my voice by now if I had done that. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. Thank you so much for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.